Flo and Shannon, I know, Dave, I know you know who this guy is. Are you guys familiar with Ben Shapiro?
I am familiar with Ben Shapiro.
I want to say yes, but can you tell me?
Yeah, he's this like goofy little dweeb who like does a bunch of like work for he's like an alt-right kind of guy who like does a lot of like you know, using logic and reason to argue for like why feminism is bullshit or like why black people deserve to be in jail at higher rates than other people and whatnot. So he's just like this little pseudo
it's ringing
pseudo intellectual alt-right troll basically, and he's like the most Caucasian person on the planet.
What's his website? Is it the Daily Caller? Is that it?
That is an alt-right fucking goofy ass website. I think that's his, but I'm not positive.
He's got some shitty little alt-right website where he writes kind of alarmist, angry headlines, and he makes his money off that.
Yeah, I see him.
But he does these sort of reactionary shows, and he likes to do a lot of cultural commentary.
Okay.
And as we all know, a very popular song came out yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are you guys familiar with Cardi B's new hit?
Oh gosh, yep. Please tell me this is not happening. Please tell me this is not about to be a take on WAP. I can't.
It is. Not only is it a take on WAP, it is the hottest, most flaming volcanic take on WAP I have ever heard. And the internet has picked this up. Somebody on Twitter has like really come through in a major way. If you don't mind, without further ado, I need to play you Ben Shapiro reacting to the lyrics of Cardi B's new hit single.
And
Cardi B and Meg the Stallion.
Right.
Yep.
So here we go. Check this out.
Whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. I said certified freak. 7 days a week. Wet ass P word. Make that pull-out game weak. Yeah, you effing with some wet ass P word. P word is female genitalia.
P word is female genitalia.
Give me everything you got for this wet ass P word. Beat it up, N word. Catch a charge. Extra large and extra hard. Put this P word right in your face. Swipe your nose like a credit card. Hop on top, I want to ride. I do a Kegel while it's inside. Spit in my mouth, look in my eyes. This P word is wet, come take a dive. And continue along these lines. And it gets significantly more vulgar. Like a lot more vulgar. Talk your S word, bite your lip. Ask for a call while you ride that D word. You really ain't never gonna F him for a thing. He already made his mind up before he came. Now get your boots and your coat for this wet ass P word. Pay my tuition just to kiss me on this wet ass P. Right, so this is deep, guys. This is what feminists fought for.
This is what feminists fought for. Hell yeah. Thoughts?
Incredible.
That guy.
Why?
Get a bucket and a mop for this wet ass P word. Get your boots and coats for this wet ass P word.
I like hearing Ben Shapiro say, spit in my mouth, look me in the eye. What?
There was, like, listening to him do that, I was just like, yeah, you have terrible sex. Like,
100%.
I was just like, what? First of all, what is happening here?
Secondly,
your sex. Yeah, you have terrible sex. You're offended by WAP because you've never experienced it. That's the problem.
We were chatting with a friend today, trying to figure out what his dirty talk is.
Yeah. I think he probably, like, in the heat of the moment, probably refers to, like, his dick is like an erect penis.
Oh, shit.
That's just funny.
I think to him, that's his P word. So
that's his P word. Yeah.
Oh, right.
That's his hard ass P word.
Clarify, right?
And it is the V word.
The female genitalia.
Yeah. He's like, if you're like me, you think you're talking about male genitalia.
Right.
If you're like me, you hate thinking about genitalia in any sense.
That is what feminists fought for.
Dude, it is definitely. I love that he fucking plays that song and then he's like uses it to like critique the feminist movement. Is like this is what they really want. Like, you know, voting rights and it's all about being able to just rap about your wet ass P word.
And if it is, who's it harming?
Right.
I
mean, that's you can use that response for like 99% of the things that Ben Shapiro whines about.
It's his, Republican culture war shit.
Right.
One woman on Twitter did say, I think him saying that wet ass pussy is what feminists fought for is possibly the only accurate thing he's ever said.
Yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Oh man, I watched that video. There's like a few of these videos floating around. I think I've watched them collectively like 50 times today. I had a ball with it.
I couldn't stop for a while.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
What is happening? It was already bad enough that Kylie Jenner was in the video in the first place.
Right.
Which is basically wearing blackface while she was doing it. I was just like, what is happening here? But I was just like, Ben, some things are just not for you. And when you saw it, you should have just been like, this is not my wheelhouse.
Yeah. Especially this, Ben, is not for you. Especially this.
Of all things.
It's just like, it is a striking reminder that the patriarchy is real.
So real.
And that
it fucking sucks.
It sucks. Yeah.
Like, people are so up in arms about this, and I'm just like, like, we have not been this up in arms about men making songs that are very similar. We have not been this up in arms about, like, I think it's just because these are two Black women who made this song that we are like flipping out about it, because like people didn't flip out about so many other things. And I'm just like, I just don't understand.
What music do you think Ben Shapiro listens to? Like, what do you think he likes?
Kenny G.
I think that's a good guess.
I was about to say Kenny G is a good guess.
Yeah.
Although
like racist classical, like Wagner.
Yeah, for sure. Like racist, Nazi composers.
Classical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's a pretty good
like
guess.
Soft rock.
He's definitely a guy who will go on and be like, rap isn't real music because there's no horns, or like whatever the fuck
because there's no horns.
Like whatever the fucking justification
the bad
for that
horns.
statement is. Like,
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's super whack.
Well, that was pretty special.
Yeah. As soon as this episode is over, I'm listening to that another 10 times.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I can't get enough of that wet ass P word.
Yeah, so let's get this S word.
Well, let's hurry up and finish.
Yeah. I like where your head's at. All right, let's start the show.
Yeah.
All right.
Voices, the things they said. Voices, some from those dead. All the voices heard. Voices, things we say. Voices, they're in your head. All the voices heard.
Hello, everyone. You have Kempa.
And Skylar.
And Shannon.
And Flo.
And now that we're all calmed down from that summer hit that we didn't know we needed that summer banger.
Excuse me, it's a wet ass P word. Thank you. I'll thank you to say P word when I'm on the show.
There's some whores in this house.
Oh God, it's never gonna go away, is it?
That wasn't my favorite song, but now I love it. Now I love it.
Giant fan. Yeah.
It's
so
a part of many a conversation over the last couple days. So
yeah, definitely. So let's get started.
I can't wait to do that.
Yes,
today our first topic is going to be, everybody who lives anywhere near the Sacramento region knows this fucking story, because I don't think I have one friend or person I follow on social media that hasn't shared this thing. But friend of the show, Sacramento County Sheriff Scott Jones is once again in making headlines.
Sick. Is it for being like super cool and doing great stuff for the county?
Yeah, it's because he's a good man who is our favorite large son, and he eats all of his SpaghettiOs at night alongside his vegetables.
Spaghetti.
He eats all of his SpaghettiOs at night?
Yeah.
Straight out of the
I'm
can,
just like
probably.
picturing him with like his like potato head, wearing a bib, and like I don't know, what are you feeding some guy?
Wow, that is like, yeah, I feel like it's accurate, but that is a disturbing image
These are
in my head.
Every time I shut my eyes at night, that's what I see.
Yeah, I
Ugh.
feel like he's the kind of guy who would like Postmates himself like a KFC meal for like a family of 8 at midnight, and then when the delivery guy shows up, he'd be like, I'm the sheriff, and in a bid to like try and get out of having to pay for his meal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Flo, what did Sheriff Jones do?
Well, what hasn't he done to basically,
Right.
harm this region? So listeners, I'm sure, are aware that as part of the CARES Act, which is the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, which was passed back in March, both the city and the county received an allocation, and it's from the Coronavirus Relief Fund. The county received $181 million for this, and it's really supposed to be used to support the cities and counties where the funds were allocated to be able to weather the storm through the coronavirus pandemic. There are guidelines for how this money is supposed to be spent, and there are basically 3 criteria that have been set up that you're supposed to have to use to be able to address, the pandemic. One is that whatever you spend it on has to be, related to coronavirus, and so you have to be responsive to that with the funds. The other is that it's not supposed to supplant or replace things that were already in your city or county's budget. And then the third requirement is that you have to spend all of the funds by December 30th of 2020. And so out of the $181 million, would anyone like to guess how much of this money has gone to public health?
At least 180 million of it.
Yeah, that would make good sense, right? Because we're in a pandemic and public health has to respond.
Public
Right,
health
public health is like a
crisis.
big part of a global pandemic, right?
Yeah, of course.
And, if I trust anyone, it's our county board of supervisors.
Same.
I know there are 3 Democrats on there, and I know that Don Natoli always does the right thing.
Right. No, we have our local county officials have a long history of doing exactly what's right for the people who live in Sacramento County. Flo, can you confirm that that's what they did with the money?
I wish I could, but Skylar, unfortunately, I cannot, because the
This is a huge
majority of these funds have been spent on the sheriff's department to the tune of
On the
almost
sheriff's department.
$150 million. The sheriff who has been so bad on this pandemic that he is being sued. The sheriff that is so bad on these issues that the UC Davis psychiatry department pulled their staff out because they said it was unsafe for them to provide services in the jail because his sheriff's deputies refused to do basic mitigation efforts like wearing masks and distancing to be able to help to stop the spread of COVID-19. So this is the same person who said they would not enforce, the mask ordinance and they would just not participate. But
that was like the same day that that mandate came out, right?
Correct. But this person is getting the majority of the money, and public health is getting far less. In fact, they, what they need is probably at least half of the money and, half of the funds that are available. And they have gotten a really paltry amount of several $1 million, with maybe more to come. But there's only $30 million left of these funds. And it's really appalling that it would be spent on law enforcement at a time where their jail population is down and at a time where crime in the community is down. Supposedly the 2 things that we're supposed to spend our money on law enforcement to support.
And at a time when like the community trust in law enforcement in general is way, 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 way down.
Absolutely.
Right?
So let me drive home a few numbers pertaining to what Flo just said, and I just want to reiterate that she said that the county has spent $148 million, so that's nearly $150 million of the CARES Act federal funding that was supposed to go towards helping our community battle coronavirus.
Right. Get through coronavirus.
Yep.
So according to this article from the Bee, I believe it was by, who wrote that? Alexandra?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Most of it went to
fantastic piece.
Right.
Yeah, so 104 million of it, over 2/3 of it, went to pay the salaries and benefits of the sheriff's office. It's paying just salary
Yep.
in the sheriff's
Sure.
department.
Yep.
Fucking
21
Support our boys in blue.
Oh my god, and it's like the worst sheriff's department in the state. We've had an episode before.
Right.
Scott Jones,
They're
California's
like famous
largest
for
adult
being
son.
shitheads. Yeah.
They can't even solve a fucking crime. They don't do shit.
Yep.
So 21.5 million of that 148 million went to
Probation.
payroll for probation officers.
Correct.
And then 1.8 million went to park rangers because we don't pay our parks anything either. So, but so that's fully 86% of the 148 million that's gone out, going towards cops, probation officers, and park rangers. Less than 3% went to, as Flo said, public health and medical expenses.
Yep.
And only $10,000 went to contact tracing efforts, which should be central to how our state is approaching the coronavirus pandemic right now. And so you wonder why we're spiking.
Yep. And apparently the federal government put out some guidance saying that this is all allowable, even though it really shouldn't be. And so I'm really curious also to just know how the city of Sacramento is going to handle this, because they were under the impression, as everyone else, that you couldn't use this to be able to backfill like any revenue that you lost from your general fund or to pay your normal payroll expenses. Like, you're not supposed to be able to do that. But there now is a frequently asked questions document that says that you can assume that your public health and your public safety expenses will be allowable unless your county executive says otherwise. And so that is why they are doing this. But it's also important to
I trust our county executive, Nav Gill, very much, because he makes a lot of great decisions for the people of Sacramento County. And I'd be really surprised if he was making bad decisions. Can you verify what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't trust him at all. And I'm glad that was just sarcasm. No, he's been terrible on these issues. Our county budget is, we spend a lot of time talking about the city because we have, I think higher expectations. And for those of us who live within the city boundaries, they are, our primary municipal government. But our county also is supposed to, be supporting the unincorporated areas, so the people who don't live in one of the 7 cities in the county. Mm-hmm. And that budget is just, it's bloated. And it largely goes to the sheriff and the jails. And I think the one major victory we probably had from a progressive front was stopping the jail expansion. But beyond that, Scott Jones gets an exorbitant amount of money, over $400 million a year, to be able to run wild with. If you think the city has an issue with, misconduct, payments and settlements, the county is even worse. Allegations go all the way up to the top, including Scott Jones himself. And, they're constantly being sued over the conditions of the jail. They are currently under a judge's orders with Disability Rights California, where Tiffany used to work, who was on our show previously. And they had to sue the jail over, access issues and over conditions. And so they are currently under the watchful eye of the court.
By the way, she's talking about Tiffany Rezel-Moyer, who
yes.
is a civil rights attorney.
Yes, and she previously worked for Disability Rights California and worked on the case against the jail. And so, you know, there's not a good track record here of doing the right thing with public funds when it comes to the county. And this is just another prime example of really just kind of, you know, slapping the people of the county of Sacramento in the face at a time when they really could most benefit from our support by not spending these funds in a way that's responsible or responsive to the to the pressing needs of the day.
It's like unfathomable to me that with everything else that's going on, they're taking this money and just throwing it at cops. Yep. It's incredible. Like, maybe just take 1 year off of throwing all of the county and the city's resources at law enforcement who abuses the fucking people they're supposed to be serving and protecting. Let's just take this year, 2020. There's enough shitty stuff going on. Let's take this year off. Let's spend that money on the people who actually need it in the city and in the county. You would think that would maybe this would be the year that we could try doing that. Incredible that even this year, even like this few months after the whole country was basically burning itself to the ground around police brutality, we're just throwing this money at like somebody who's like famous for police corruption and police brutality, you know?
Yeah.
Incredible. Amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, I hate to be like touting, you know, the city, but at least the city did make the decision of not using their CARES Act funds to go to police that actually have been trying to like create these relief funds, and you know, and other places have used their funds really responsibly to be able to help out with housing or to be able to help businesses, you know, really to be able to bolster the community. And
Los Angeles been good with housing, with keeping renters in their homes.
Yeah, over $100 million is what, you know, LA spent to be able to just make sure that, you know, their renters could experience some relief. And in the county of Sacramento, we decided that wasn't important, and we weren't even going to give public health what they needed in the middle of a pandemic. And if it doesn't infuriate you yet, I would say this is the time to be like, if you're not a person who thinks, gosh, our regular spending is a problem, okay, I mean, I guess, but in the middle of a pandemic, the funding that's supposed to go to addressing the pandemic, going to this one entity in particular, over half of it just off the top, and who knows what's going to come of the last 30 million in terms of how much of that is going to be spent on the sheriff. Yeah, it's just outrageous.
Yeah, and I want to drive home, like, you know, we have 155 people in Sacramento County dead. We have over 11,000 cases confirmed in our county. Putting that money towards contact tracing efforts would have saved a lot of lives. In the long term, it would have saved a lot of businesses. We could have gotten back out into restaurants and into shopping earlier. And the county gave $10,000 to contact tracing.
Right. Of like 180 million.
And over 100 million to a sheriff's office that, again, and like, I'm sorry, listeners, we say this a lot and we talk about them a lot, but Scott Jones is perhaps the worst sheriff in the country. His jails are among the worst in the country.
Oh, Sac County Jail is famous for being like one of the worst fucking places you can get locked up in.
And we are among the worst countries in the world as far as our jails go. So that's how bad they are. Scott Jones is a monster. And like, I don't use that term lightly, and maybe I do sometimes, but I definitely don't right now.
Not in this moment.
His police officers are killers, and they're deeply opaque. They refuse to wear body cams. They refuse to tell you the full story of what happens when they do kill people. So we don't know if folks are innocent or not. And we all know from all the cop stories we've seen, from all the press releases we've seen, measuring that up to cop videos, they lie. Cops are liars. They're a gang. And Scott Jones and the Sacramento Sheriff's Department, that is one of the worst gangs in the country right now. And our county just gives a blank check to them.
Right.
in our time of greatest need, people are gonna die because of this.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, we're in a time when like people really need like support and like social services to help them out. Like, and people who like a lot of people who don't typically need that very often, right? Like, it's a lot of people who are used to kind of being self-supporting and being independent, who by no fault of their own are in a position where they could really use some assistance from their government, and like, just like, absolutely not. Like, nothing for you guys. We're going to take all of that money, even though there's like, we are in like maybe like the biggest period of my lifetime where people are really looking to their government for like, please, we're drowning, throw us a bone. And for them to be like, no, we fed all the bones to Sheriff Jones and his fucking goons.
It
So
might be
get
one
fucked.
of the most important moments in the history of the country. I mean, this is worse than
Right.
Hoovervilles. I mean,
Right.
we've never seen this many people file for unemployment, and
Right.
we're throwing it at these monstrous, murderous pigs.
And when
I
we
don't
do,
know.
and when people do, you know, when we are like crying out for like, hey, we need extended unemployment, we need rental protections, we need help with this and that. The mantra coming back at us from the people in the county is, well, we just don't have the money for it. There's just no money for it. We just don't have the money to fund any of these programs that would help you out. It's like, motherfucker, we do have the goddamn money. You're just fucking giving it to fucking Sheriff Colonel Sanders over here instead of fucking like
Sheriff Colonel
people who
Sanders.
fucking need it, who can actually use it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, what would they have done? I don't know. I am like almost speechless in rage over this. Like, I don't understand a person who looks at these numbers and is not doesn't feel their blood pressure rise. Like, this is racism, it's injustice, it's abuse of power.
It's all of the things.
It's corruption.
It's 100%, it's corruption, and it's life threatening. Like, it is all of the terrible
People are going to die because of this. Like, a lot of people will die because of this misallocation of funds.
Yep.
And we understand the way that the sheriffs, the way that law enforcement works, is that they're going to take money no matter what, right? Like, they're going to get the money that is sitting in whatever pots anywhere. So my question is, we're looking at this $181 million, and let's just say it had been used appropriately. Like, what would that, how would that negatively impact law enforcement from the perspective of an abolitionist? Is like, you know, fuck law enforcement. They don't deserve to have
hopefully they get laid off.
any of the dollars.
Find a better job where you help people.
Like, I guess I want to understand, like, what maybe I don't want to understand what kind of a terrible what kind of terrible people allow this shit to happen. Like,
well, I think that's a good question, and let's make it a two-parter so we can try and have a little some arrow to point, right, listeners, toward who's culpable here, and then what can we do?
Right.
Bueller?
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously, right, we talk a lot on this show about the fucking Sioux, who are kind of the ringleaders in this sort of fuckery, right? And unfortunately, like, all we can really do is like hope that people pay attention in an off year, right? Like hope that people pay attention when their fucking races are happening and get in and vote them out.
Yep. But
fucking, dude, you know, like we've said on this show before, and I feel like things are getting bad enough to where people are kind of starting to pay attention. But the fact of the matter is that fucking county politics are boring as fuck, and most people don't give a fuck and don't pay any attention to elections for the board of county soups, right? And I think like part of what you can do if you're fired up about this and listening to the show is to stay loud about it, pay attention, and when those races are coming up, fucking get you know, loud with your friends and be like, we all gotta go, we all have to go, and like, you know, fucking vote these people out, get them out.
So give us a race to be loud about.
we got a Fishman coming up.
yeah, Greg Fishman is our best choice, our best bet at this point.
So we've got Susan Peters on her way out. She's not running again. And we've got a Democrat in Greg Fishman running against Rich Desmond, who, listeners, is a lifelong cop.
Surprise.
So if you
Wait,
think
we hate that, right?
we love to see it and think about it.
No, actually, Skylar.
New yoga buddy.
New yoga buddy.
But Rich, as Skylar was saying, like, we have a roadblock in the Board of Soups, right? And if Rich gets this seat, do you think a goddamn thing changes with
Absolutely
Scott
not.
Jones?
Yeah, there's no way that this dude's going to take the seat and be like, we got to cut back on the sheriff's budget. That's not fucking happening. That's not how it's going to go down.
No.
I
So
think
fucking stay up. Like, yeah.
So Fishman's important. But like, doesn't the buck, as far as this money allocation, doesn't the buck stop with Nav Gill?
with Nav, yeah.
It does. It does right now because the Board of Supervisors have largely just sort of shirked their responsibility, and I think this goes back to the same issue we're having in the city, right? The reason why we're having this conversation about strong mayor is because instead of doing their jobs, they now just want to shift this power from the city manager to themselves instead of doing their jobs and actually reining in the county executive. Like, they could very easily pass an ordinance that says, no, we don't want this money to go there. Or they could go through and make all the allocations themselves. And they could say, okay, here are big buckets, right? We are willing to give the sheriff, $25 million, and we're willing to give public health $90 million, and we're willing to give, contact tracing, whatever. Like, they could actually go through and decide, and then Nav Gill, his only responsibility would be to figure out what he was going to spend that on within those buckets. But instead, they have just largely given the responsibility of this to Nav to be able to do whatever the heck he wants to. And so he and other folks who are just staff for the city have made these decisions, and it's largely been on consent. And so the board has just been like, yeah, sure, what'd you say we should spend it on? Yeah, check. And they're not actually engaged. So this, again, is not a structural issue. It's an issue of doing your job.
So is it a good analogy to say that a city council's relationship with a city manager like Howard Chan, or a board of supervisors relationship with a county county executive, like Nav Gill, that relationship is akin to sitting on a nonprofit board. But what is happening is this nonprofit board is totally out to lunch. There's zero oversight, and they don't give a shit what the executive director is doing.
Yeah.
That sounds
basically
right.
Because they can hire and fire these fucking people.
Correct.
But they won't. They're shirking this responsibility.
I feel like, and maybe this is like too big picture, but something that I have been thinking about is we have both at the city and the county, in terms of people who are running, like with the exception of Katie Valenzuela, who is council member elect of District 4, the city of Sacramento. We have not seen people run for those seats who are rooted in their communities and invested in the people, and who like actually give a shit about folks who are underrepresented. And so I guess my big picture pitch idea, what the fuck ever, is how do we make those seats more attractive to people who are rooted in the community so that we have representation up on the dais at both the Board of Supervisors and at the city council level? Because otherwise we just continue to have these people, like how Don Natoli was like born in the Board of Soups building in that seat and like has never left it,
I'm picturing him as an infant in that seat with those big glasses on, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm loving to think about it.
With the mouse
the ears,
got like the mouse ears.
Imagine how big they were when he was an infant.
Oh, Dawn. I just, you've got these folks who just they sit there and they never get their asses up, like. And how do we I mean, I think we are in a time now that is sort of like primed for people to give a shit in a way that they have never before. And I guess I don't know what my point is, other than we got to get different butts in those seats, like, because otherwise we just continue on this path of, like, you know, fucking the evil Susans and, you know,
And fucking Jones.
I've got a
And
question.
Scott-
Like,
Right,
he's an
yeah.
elected fucking position. We can
Flo,
vote him out.
What do you do, Flo, when there's a person that the entire community wants to run for office, but
Oh,
they
shit.
refuse?
oh shit. Oh shit.
Yeah, Flo, what
Oh,
are your
God.
thoughts on like the idea that the people who should be holding office and representing it are often the people who want it the least?
Like when you have even public servants asking that person, what do you do?
It ain't me this time, Tareen. It is not me. It is not me. I learned my lesson and I won't do it again. Introverts unite. I got you, and I'm not doing it again.
What? This
Tareen
is
will appreciate that.
It's an honest question, you guys. I don't know. This is like that pearl necklace thing all over again.
I think you find people who want the job, and you convince them to take the job, because you want someone in the job who wants to have the job.
That is a great answer, because it's funny, because Flo's like, get off me, but also because it's true, right? Like, do these assholes who are sitting there, like, I mean, I guess they want their fucking jobs because, like, Nav Gill is like bringing in like plenty of Benjamins.
There's a lot of money.
Yeah, the county
they
always
make
makes tons of money. In fact, they make more money than the state, just in general. So
Well, fuck it. Maybe all
And they
of them.
have like wild pensions,
Mhm.
and they accrue loads and loads of PTO, and they get comp time. And
Who
they
doesn't
like,
love a
it is-
wild pension?
I love a wild pension.
I love it because
Honestly,
everyone
you
at the
guys are
county-
selling it on me. I didn't want this job before we had this conversation, but now
Oh,
maybe I'm
yeah.
thinking,
Right.
all
We're gonna
right.
have Supervisor Schuyler up there. soon.
Sheriff Schuyler.
I like
Oh,
that actually.
shit.
Yeah.
No, I was being funny about that, but I really do mean it, because I think about how much time and energy I spend on the Measure U committee, and you want somebody who wants to be there and not somebody who's just checking off a box, because when you
Yeah.
get somebody who's just checking off a box, you don't get a whole lot of progress. You don't get the fight. You don't get the, I mean, there's a way that you can just sort of be asleep at the wheel and be like, hey, I chaired my meetings and I go home and I go to sleep. And I feel like that's unfortunately the problem with a lot of city government, is that there are people who are asleep at the wheel and are not doing their duty and their job. And, I would argue that these jobs are big enough that they are full-time positions. They, especially certainly where we live, they pay enough to be considered to be full-time positions, both at the county level and at the city level. And so people should be working them full-time and should be really taking it seriously. And these, agenda packets that come out for these meetings are hundreds of pages long, and it takes time to read through them. Someone asked me earlier today, how much time do I spend on Measure U a month? And I said, in a slow month, probably 20 hours. In a really busy month, probably the equivalent of 40 to 60 hours. And so, when you're really
And
thinking
you have
about who you
volunteers helping you during that sometimes too. Like it's
right.
You're doing
Exactly.
a lot. Yeah.
Yes. And so like, if you're really thinking about what this commitment looks like you want people who want to do it, because it's a job that is hard and that requires making a lot of decisions, requires having to hopefully weigh, the benefits and the drawbacks on behalf of your constituents and on behalf of the most vulnerable populations. And that's not always as easy as it seems. And so you really want people who are willing to think deeply about these issues and are willing to commit themselves to this hard work and to, pushing the brakes on things and saying, slow down, we need to get more input. And you don't want somebody who's just going to be there because they can.
So
I should probably
pushback.
drop out of this race then. I rescind my candidacy, guys.
some pushback flow, because I wasn't talking about those types of people, right? I mean, I was talking about who's that legislator that my close friend once called her spirit animal? Oh yes, Dr. Weber, who did not want to run for office for a very long time, very famously, and until she had someone that she loved and respected convince her to. But like, obviously that person didn't think she was just going to coast through, like, because she's like, oh, I'm in a job I don't want. It's because that person knew she would hold the responsibility with like very closely and take the responsibility seriously and know what it means to have to represent communities and people who really, really need help. That's where I was coming from. But I understand where you're saying too.
Of course. I do think it's important that, I think it's important that we identify people that we want to be in those positions and say to them why. I also think it's really important that we recognize just what it takes to be in those positions, and why we're trying to identify people to run for them is because we have been disappointed in the level of leadership that's been shown and the level of commitment to these ideals that we've seen. So yeah.
Maybe we have to develop a pipeline that makes sense from a grassroots perspective. And I'm not sure. Maybe there are iterations out there that I just don't know about.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of folks who are trying to develop, a bench to be able to get people to run. And I totally respect and appreciate their efforts, because I think I don't know. I guess, there is probably some truth to the fact that the people that a lot of people want to run often don't. And I guess I'm more focused on the people who want to run. How do we shape them how do we prepare them so that they're actually well equipped to be able to do this job? Because I think it has to be a combination of desire and commitment and know-how.
Right. Yeah.
And I'd love to be able to see all three of those come together in multiple candidates.
Yeah. Well, I guess to round this off, I guess the Fishman campaign is really important right now at the county level.
Incredibly important.
Yeah.
And
it's also important to put pressure on the people who are there.
that's true.
I can't say enough that we have 3 Democrats that should be running the table. And it's the same argument that we had about the city, right?
Yep. Phil Cerna, Patrick Kennedy, Don Natoli, they should feel very uncomfortable.
These guys should be dragging the Sioux into every piece of legislation they fucking can, or like any they should be influencing the show the entire time, and they're fucking not. So
by the way,
what the fuck?
There's what the politicians are all saying at the city county level now? That like, all the hundreds of people calling in on all these items that they don't want us to do what we want to do. It's just a very loud minority of our region.
Shit. Fuck these motherfuckers, dude. I'm over that shit.
So again, make your voice heard then. Make their day worse. Make Don Natoli's day fucking worse. And like also direct action works. Don't ever stop doing that. And I think those two in tandem can be powerful, Also
continue to be the quote unquote vocal minority. Like,
100%.
Even though these motherfuckers are going to say that shit and be like, oh, well, this is a vocal minority. But like, if like 150 people call in and 149 of them are in opposition to what the mayor and city council wants to do, that sends a pretty unmistakable message, regardless of however these fucks who are sitting up on the dais choose to interpret it publicly.
Yeah, it's just disgusting to me when Democrats in city council are saying the exact same talking point that Scott Jones, the worst, most disgusting, most violent sheriff in the country, is using.
It is. It's pretty disappointing.
Can we talk about other disappointing things in the state of California?
I would love to. This is my favorite. It's my bread and butter.
Somebody's
there are many.
wheelhouse.
We're gonna have a segment called "Disappointing Things in the State of California."
I think that's
Isn't that our
most of the
entire show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should just change the name of the show.
This week, freeways. No.
Voices of disappointment. That we're no longer Voices River City. We're just
Disappointed voices
Yeah.
of River City.
Yes.
What grinds our gears? So, Shannon, you shared an article with the group from I believe it was from the LA Times, and it was diving into it. It took the stats that we have from the state of California, which are as accurate as I guess they can be because we don't know what's coming out lately. But what the stats have shown over and over again over time is that our Latino population in the state has been overwhelmingly more deeply affected by this illness than any other subcategory, and there's a number of reasons for this. In this article that you sent us in particular, it takes you to Marin County and shows you sort of this dichotomy of the haves and have-nots. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah. So in Marin County, there's this whole article. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Centers around.
Hey, I wouldn't have gotten
Heyo. It centers around the experience of one particular family, but highlights that our state is really just fumbling in terms of their response to the coronavirus. The population in California that, as Kempa said, is suffering the most right now is the Latino community. In the email that Kempa sends us as a roundup before we get the show going, it says that 3 in 5 confirmed cases in the state are Latinos, and we make up just 40% of the state's population.
Yep.
We are also overrepresented in deaths related to COVID-19. And out in Marin County, what we see is really just all we're seeing tonight are glaring problems with what it really comes down to is that their essential workers are all Latinos and are largely Latinos. And so, therefore the rise in numbers that they're seeing in Marin County, which are Latinos make up 16% of the county's population, but 75% of the infected residents are Latinos.
Jesus Christ.
Wild.
That's
insane.
Fucking hell of a statistic.
It's bananas.
And this is a very affluent county too. So
Right.
the dichotomy of who is not dealing with infections and confirmed cases, it's just stark.
Right.
Yeah, it's just this it highlights, that when you living in this county where there's lots of affluent, a lot of fucking rich white people who rely on Latinos to do the work that needs to get done to get through this pandemic, you're going to see us die. You're going to see us die at rapid rates. You're going to see us get infected at rapid rates. I mean, the thing about if you're in a Latino household, likely you're not living with just you, like your nuclear family, because
especially if you live somewhere like Marin County, right?
Oh,
or
totally. Yeah, because you can't fucking
the price of living is huge.
It's astronomical.
Yeah, it's out of control. and the thing is that for us, our nuclear family is not just one parent or two and siblings. It's it's our grandparents, it's our aunts and uncles, it's our cousins, and you know, a bedroom has 3 sets of bunk beds in it, and we're all, like, that's normal life for us. Like it's normal life for us because one, family is important, but also because racism exists and we can't afford homes. Like we can't afford to live in spaces that are larger, in homes that are not even like giant, just like spaces where you can turn around and not be like, you know,
Yep.
balls to butt crack.
Balls to butt crack. Wow. Wow. Started out with that WAP, and now we got balls to butt crack.
I mean,
the show's this show is declining by the episode.
Just
honestly.
by the minute, actually.
We're gonna have a parental advisory so that Tipper Gore
I think we already do. I think the thing about this,
Agent Squillian's all over that.
Agent Squillian is like, nope. The thing about this story that was really, you know, I think it's really important that we have this conversation. And the thing that really kind of like it dug really deep, was the story of this woman, the Calderon family, who experienced an outbreak of COVID in their home, and it just takes it over. It takes the home over like rapidly, right? Everybody's sick, they can't get away from it,
right? Because I mean, like they say in the article, like one guy gets it, and then like what's he supposed to do, you know? So they tried to quarantine,
crying from the hospital,
right? Yep. But like where's he supposed to go? So he's like quote unquote quarantining in like the top bunk,
right?
But like days later, like 8 out of 10 people who live in that residence have it,
right? It's also this, you know, a point that should be made is many, you know, California, we've got many undocumented Latinos who are afraid to go to the hospital. So if they show up, like if you wake up and you've got a fever and your sense of smell is gone and your body's aching and you're like, fuck, I definitely got the Rona, and you're undocumented, you're probably not going to seek out medical care because you're afraid to get deported. And then what happens? Like, you know, and we understand that hospitals aren't like, we understand that hospitals are going to take care of you. Like we, the 4 of us know that, but like people
don't know that,
like maybe but
and there are real risks, right? Like
100%.
People, there's fucking assholes everywhere, and all you are is like one phone call away from the fucking American SS showing up at your door and fucking your shit all up.
Correct.
I mean, totally. Yeah.
Correct.
So there's this, like, I don't know, this is a giveaway to the article, but it ends with like the story of this woman, Crisalia, who got sick. You know, it's the story of her family getting sick, and there needed to be some repairs done to her apartment, and so she doesn't call her landlord because everybody's sick. And then folks get better, and she calls her landlord to come and make this repair, and her landlord has COVID, so he can't come out and make these repairs. And it's just like, it is impacting Latinos at such a rate that like we're dying, like, and can't get the help that we need in order to not, like, it is just yet another like glaring, it's a highlight that I think Kempa in the email calls it racist public health outcomes. And that's exactly what it is. 100%. These racist outcomes are killing Marin County's Latino workers and Sacramento's Latino workers and our state's Latino workers. Like,
it's especially galling somewhere like Marin County, in my opinion, because you are like in the shadow of some of the wealthiest people on the planet.
Correct.
You know, just like multiple billionaires, like one zip code away from where people are dying in their like crowded apartments of COVID-19 for lack of ways to deal with it. It's really, really, really awful.
It really is. And I mean, I think that's like what makes it even more egregious that we're, you know, to circle, like that we're not spending our money better, that we're not taking this more seriously, that we're not doing more to protect our vulnerable populations, because this is an equity issue. So nobody gets to sit back
Absolutely.
and say, I care about equity, if you're not doing everything you can to address coronavirus.
Yeah.
You just can't. Your credibility is shot.
Yeah. To Skylar's point about this being really fucked up in Marin County, the article points out that more than half of the families in the neighborhood that is being talked about in this piece, in this article, earn less than $35,000 a year in a county where the median income is almost triple that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And if you are a Latino family, you are very likely sending money back to
Remittances, right?
Yeah.
Back to Guatemala, back to Mexico,
Mexico,
back to El
like
Salvador.
yeah, you're
Absolutely.
not, that money is not just supporting you, but it's supporting your family back home. So yeah.
Yeah, this story
is rough.
it really got to me, and it strikes me, especially in areas like that, wine country too. You know, there's a reason that Cesar Chavez was a really important figure, and a lot of the problems that he and the workers were fighting back then are still here today. It possibly, if not as bad, worse in some ways.
Yeah.
Particularly facing a global pandemic.
Yeah.
So, you know, my answer to this is socialism.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I don't even know. Like, normally, you know, on the show, we kind of like to have, like we did with the last segment, like, here's what we can do to, like, kind of fix this problem. But with something like this, like, I'm really at a loss. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you about, you know, like, obviously capitalism is like a correctable problem, but that's pretty fucking grandiose scale, you know?
Yeah.
And like, it's hard to like think of something to just tell one of our listeners, like, here's a call you can make or a cause you can get behind, you know?
I was jokingly going to like make a message in Spanish that was like somewhat violent against the violent against the ruling class out there, right? And just like be like, oh, I don't know what I'm saying, but like it's just it's not even worth making like pretending that there's some easy answer right now. I guess it's just like there is such a violent dynamic of haves and have-nots, and it is violence, and I think that that's important for us to remember, and it is racist, and it is classist, and it is here in a state that is run from top to bottom by Democrats. And
that is extremely important to remember, and will become more important as we move forward. It matters what day. You can't just vote for people with D's next to their name and fucking clap the dust off your hands and proclaim, I've done my deed for the day. They have to be good Democrats. There's a lot of shitty Democrats in the state, and the results of that are all around you. So like, vet these guys. Don't just let the fact that they're Democrats be enough to earn your vote.
Amen.
You know, I would also say for a situation like this, that we, I think it's important to find organizations in our cities and counties that are supporting farm workers.
Yes.
And make sure that we are giving to them, doing some wealth redistribution to those organizations, because they do things like, you know, help pay for medical bills, or help if a person is, you know, sick with COVID or anything, like help with making sure that families have food on the table, help with making sure that people get transportation to appointments. Like, just find your local organization that is directly working with farm workers, and give them some money. Because the other thing is that those organizations have done the rapport building, and so that money is going to get used well. Whereas if you have a bunch of white saviors that come in, that's not trusted money, right? It's not trusted,
Right.
it's not trusted social service. Like, you
Right.
need people who speak the language, who understand the culture, who have really gotten their hands dirty with the community. So finding ways to support those folks is really important, I think, especially as Latinos are struggling to survive, are like literally fighting to serve. Like, they have to go to work every day.
Yeah.
Have no other option. And
maybe some homework that we can do is to identify a couple of these groups and kind of blast them out via the Voices social stuff to hook people up with that.
Love it.
Yeah.
So be looking for that in the next few days. We'll point you in the right directions.
And can I say, and this might just be small, but like, if you are a Californian and you don't speak Spanish, it's important to. It just, like, this is the language of this state. And if you want to help out in things like this, like, obviously don't pull the white savior bullshit that Shannon's talking about, but like, it's important to be able to communicate in this language. And it is central to, I think, solidarity with what they're going through, to be able to hear people talk in their own words. So I think it's really important to learn Spanish. You can do it for free on Duolingo. There's some really great places all around our region where you can learn from them too. I don't know if they're open right now, but
Sacramento Public Library has, isn't it Rosetta Stone?
They have that for free?
Free.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Dude,
Duolingo's great too.
Libraries are so incredible. What a concept.
I love a library.
We all just pay into a system, and then like there's just this great resource that we all get to share as a community, and it doesn't cost you anything when you go in to read their books and use their services.
And also even be able to access the newspaper and stuff. Exactly, Shannon.
Incredible.
Yep.
What a world. What a wild idea that is.
I like this system, and I would like to adapt it to other things that people need.
Yeah, I would like to adapt it to all of the things that people
healthcare,
need.
That's a good place to adapt
housing
like that.
Yeah.
Why not housing?
I do like housing too. I think everyone deserves housing.
We're really turning over some.
Wow, it's almost like
we
think that people should like have their basic needs met.
Yeah,
right, and they shouldn't have to go broke trying to pursue them.
That's freaking wild. I don't know what to do with you all.
Particularly in a state where we have 165 billionaires, it just doesn't seem like this should be a thing that's happening right now.
Did you guys know that the wealth disparity right now between the working class and the elite class is much more out of control right now than it was in France right before they ended up wheeling the guillotines in?
Interesting.
Yeah, the situation now is worse than it was then, and I'm not trying to incite anything. I'm just saying there's a precedent.
You're just stating facts.
Exactly. Whatever you choose to do with that information is 100%
facts and evidence. Facts and evidence.
Well, guys, speaking of being working class in the age of coronavirus, I am among the millions of Californians who have lost their jobs due to this pandemic. And I'm good. I'm in a position, like, I've had like an easy time with unemployment and EDD and all of that. So I'm smooth sailing compared to a lot of people who are in my position with this. So mostly what I've been worrying about for the last couple of months is like how to fill up my time. And what I've been doing with it so far is I like to think of myself basically as, you ever see those fishermen and they come out with those big nets and they throw them out over the water and they cover this giant thing and they pull them in and there's like all these fish, right? And then I have to imagine, I'm not a fisherman, so maybe I'm getting this wrong, but in my mind, I imagine there's a sorting process by which they're like, oh no, this fish is too small. This fish looks disgusting. This fish offends me on some other level that is just guttural, and I'm not going to think too much about it. But they wind up with
It's
this
fish aesthetics that determines whether they stay in the boat.
That fish is gross.
Ew.
But what they do is they wind up with this big haul of perfect fish. And so I have basically become the fisherman. I'm a Twitter fisherman. So I go through the internet and I cast out my nets and I bring in what I get and I throw out all the bad takes and the whack takes and the lame takes until I just have this haul of perfect takes, right?
Yeah.
But it is a lot of time out of my day. Once I do start working again, I'm not going to have time to do all this fishing. So I want to get out ahead of the game. And I'm wondering if you guys have sort of a more streamlined way that I can get at some refined, and I'm just going to say perfect takes reliably as I go.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I know of a place, if I may, everyone.
Mm-mm.
I would.
You may not. You may not. Skylar, that was a bridge too far.
I know of a place that has the perfect sort of culmination of really aesthetically beautiful wet ass fishies.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
What?
What?
I was choking.
We're just talking about perfect take.
Yeah. And wet ass fishies.
Oh my gosh, I can't do this. I can't.
No, it sounds weird now when it's not coming out of my mouth.
This might be my last episode.
She's not even gonna make it to 50.
Oh, you were so close.
I'm tapping out. I can't. If
Sorry,
this is
man.
if this is what this is turning into,
He gave me too much time to think about it.
Oh my gosh, y'all are wild.
I don't know how to feel about you all just sitting there and thinking about how you're gonna play off of each other. You know what I'm gonna say? I'm gonna say wet ass fishies. Let me.
You got a lot of time to think about this stuff when you're a professional take monger.
Yeah. Well, it was, it's a callback. That's a classic comedy thing to do.
That's true. That's true.
So perfect takes all exist in a little fishery called voicesrivercity.com. That was
a little hatchery, a little take hatchery.
Little dam, I like to call voicesrivercity.com. And we've started out doing news and arts coverage from day one. We've done the Follows the Money project, which we're still working on right now. We've got some fun stuff coming up. Obviously, our most recent iteration is the podcast. We've got some really exciting people coming on in the next few episodes. One, a exciting writer in the Bay Area who is tackling the housing crisis out there. Another one, let's just say it's somebody who's very much involved in the social justice fight, who I'm excited to have on. And then, we've got Facebook, Voices River City, Twitter at Voices River City, Instagram at Voices River City. That's always very funny. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/Voices River City. As low as $5 a month. That's a beer at the bar you're not going to. You can get our exclusive content. And we have an episode where we all review Lady Bird coming up, a classic Sacramento story. So
I have never seen Lady Bird, by the way.
Same.
So this will be my initial take on Lady Bird.
Yeah.
Ooh, I can't wait for the hot takes.
How about you, Shannon Flo? Have you?
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, shit. It's on Netflix, though, so if anyone wants to watch it before you listen to that episode. So that'll be a fun Patreon one. And then what else? We're on YouTube. You can look at us as we do the podcast. That's always fun. And it's
That's
a little more unedited and raw, which makes it very funny.
You benefit from my laziness as an editor that I'm not willing to edit the show twice.
It is. It's a different style, and it's kind of really fun to see the differences.
Just picking my nose and my butt the whole episode.
Yeah, who doesn't want
that's-
that?
That's a.
Yeah, it'll be a visual representation of when we all just go quiet. Like you'll know why, and you'll be able to see what's happening when that happens.
It's booty picking time.
We take a butt break.
Booty picking.
Everyone takes a butt break. And so, yeah, we're also, well, I guess that's it. I'm on Twitter at Kempa, YUKNOWKEMPA.
I'm guillotine for you. That's guillotine, the number 4, YOU.
I am Shan N.D. Stevens.
And I am at Flojaune, FLOJAUNE.
Yeah, and that's us. Is there anything else to report? Oh, I'm going to be on Scott Syfax's show this week, so that'll be fun to sort of just discuss journalism and kind of what independent journalists like me are trying to do in a weird time like 2020. And are those all of my announcements? I feel like I had one more. I'm going to kick myself after we're done recording. But
the store is
the
soon.
store. That was it.
Here we go.
The store is soon.
Yeah, we've got a store coming. We've had numerous asks on the White Claw koozies. You can get one.
Yeah.
We've got great new
supplies
t-shirts.
last.
Yeah, things are looking.
These White Claw koozies are
exciting.
going to fly off the shelves.
Mugs.
Yeah,
You can get mugs, t-shirts
mugs are great.
in 2 colors.
We got stickers. We got beautiful little Voices stickers. If you see them around town hanging up on stop signs, we don't know how that happened.
No.
We
I don't know. How it
That's
happened.
that's a
I have
grassroots
no
campaign.
Yeah,
perpetrated by our loyal listenership.
I think it's a right-wing smear, really.
Yeah, I think I
any
seen
event-
Ben Shapiro walking around slapping these on stop signs and shit.
Mhm.
Oh wait, he
put
can't
these
reach
on
a stop sign.
sign.
He's like 3 feet tall, isn't he?
Hey,
brings a step
we're
stool.
not going to shame people based on their height.
Okay, that's fair. I'm sorry, short people. Flo's right.
I'm
All right.
sorry, you're short.
Sorry, sure.
Well, I guess that's all this week.
Yeah, all that and some wet ass P word.
Yeah, well, I got to pee, so we got to make this.
All right, well that's it then, guys. We're signing off. We'll see you in a few days. We love you. We want you to stay safe.
Stay sane.
Stay healthy.
And stay the fuck away from me.
Dang,
All right.
So good. We're getting so good.
Yes.
81 episodes in.
It only took us 81.
That's when you really hit the ground running.
Ew.
All right, good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Night.